What is up? Hope you guys are having a wonderful day. Back with some more Resident Evil videos for you. And this is going to be a very opinionated piece. I've actually wanted to make this video for a very long time. Just wanted the time to do it as well as the time to clear my thoughts and say as easy to understand as possible because I am the first one to admit I do like to ramble on a lot. But I think if you've watched any of my videos, you can understand that I'm a huge Resident Evil fan. I'm happy to admit I've been a fan of the franchise for over 15 years, and I have experienced all of the mainline games, and I've had a blast with this franchise. But being a part of a franchise for so long, there are things you're going to like, things maybe not a big fan of, and then things that are just going to puzzle and baffle you. And in this video, I'm going to talk about the latter. I've always had this theory and this opinion about this for a while now. Now, I don't know if this is necessarily a popular opinion or not popular. I've seen people agree with it and some people not agree with it. I don't have any problems with agreeing or disagreeing, but if you do have something to say in the comment section, just please elaborate why. I always get annoyed when I hear someone say they like something or they disagree with something, but then they don't explain why. You don't take a test and answer the question without explaining your answer. I just like to understand different perspectives. So I'm willing to listen to anything, whatever you guys say, as long as you keep it civil. Without further ado, let's get into what this opinion is. And that is, why does it seem like Capcom and the makers of Resident Evil seemingly today just hate on the iconic characters of Jill Valentine and Claire Redfield? Now, it may seem puzzling to say that. I mean, they're one half of the main characters alongside Chris Redfield and Leon S. Kennedy. How could they possibly hate them? Well, if you give me the time to explain my reasoning for that, I hope I can at least make you aware of this. But in order to understand why I feel this way, we have to go back to the beginning. So, sit back, relax as I try to explain, or maybe convince you, or maybe some will agree with me and some might, why I just feel like Capcom just seemingly just has something against Jill and Claire. So without further ado, let's jump right into it. Before I get into this, I like to make this aware so that everyone can understand where I'm coming from. This is my opinion, and it's not anyone else's. It's my personal opinion. Some may be similar to me than others, but at the end of the day, it's just an opinion, so it's nothing to get that enraged about. And then these are just video games. It's not that big of a deal. But when I say I'm going to talk about the games, I'm talking about the mainline games. The games that are part of the main story, not spin-offs or side things. And I get it, 2 games on this list might be considered side things, but I still will put them in the main line. The games I'm referring to are as follows: Resident Evil 0, 1, 2, 3, Code Veronica, 4, Revelations 1, 5, Revelations 2, 6, 7, and 8. So any games outside of that, whether it's the railgun shooters or what other spin-offs, or hell, even Resident Evil Reverse for that matter, I'm not going to be referring to any of those things at all. I'm just sticking with the main line story games. So without further ado, let's jump into it. Let's jump into that PS1, PS2 era. And this is the era in which Resident Evil started out in. Let's go to Resident Evil 1. The main characters of Resident Evil 1 were as follows: Jill Valentine and Chris Redfield. Resident Evil 2 had 2 new characters in Claire Redfield and Leon Kennedy. Resident Evil 3 had the return of Jill Valentine. Code Veronica had the return of Claire and Chris. Resident Evil 0 was Billy and Rebecca Chambers. And rounding out that era, the end of that era, would be Resident Evil 4 with Leon S. Kennedy. So, right then and there, you already can notice that it's pretty evenly based if you want to compare the main characters. I mean, Jill, Claire, Leon, and Chris all had 2 games that they starred in. So at that point, you can look at my argument. My argument has no validation at all. It's even Steven. Hell, I'll take it a step further. I've always been the belief that in that PS1 era, Jill was the face of the franchise. She was the most iconic character of that franchise. The character I think that everyone thought of, and She was the one that, was basically I guess you could say the main character at that point. For a second, you could argue this, but it'd be between Claire and Leon, and I say it wasn't into Resident Evil 4 that Leon really had that huge popularity where he became basically the most popular character of the franchise in the face at that time. Claire, before then, had two games, Resident Evil 2 and then Code Veronica, because as I said, Resident Evil 4 didn't come out to 04, so that 6-year time between 2 and 4, Claire definitely had to be, in my opinion, number 2, but you could argue that. But the point I'm trying to get through to you guys is it wasn't like I'm making the argument that Jill and Claire have never been respected. They were respected. You could argue they were the faces of the whole franchise. I don't even think Chris at that time was the lowest of those four. But Jill and Claire, in my opinion, I know definitely Jill, but Claire was probably the top tier of that franchise. They were the most iconic and memorable characters. They were the people that people thought of when they thought of Resident Evil. So this is not coming from a sense that, oh, they just have never had their respect. Why don't they ever give them their time in the sun? They were on top. They were on top of the mountain. There was no, doubt in anyone's mind these were the people thought of when they think of Resident Evil. But sadly, it's like as if after Resident Evil 4 release, it's like something changed. Something changed, and to this day, I still don't understand what Capcom and the makers of Resident Evil were thinking, what they wanted to do, what they were trying to do, because it makes zero sense. I've never seen two iconic characters just seemingly vanish, as if they just got snapped out of existence Thanos style. But now that we got that PS1 and PS2 era, and I know the games came out on other systems like Dreamcast and GameCube, but the point is, it's just the error in those years. Now, let's go all the way to the next era. And this is where the whole thing changes dramatically. Where everything that we've known in terms of the even distribution of mainlining games really just alters greatly. Because it's really puzzling, and just the whole respect meter between both Jill and Claire, where I come to the opinion that neither one of them are respected. So let's go to that PS3 era. Resident Evil 5, I remember this, guys. I remember when this game came out. I really do. It was the first Resident Evil game I got when it first came out. Resident Evil 4 was my starting game into the franchise. Resident Evil 5, I remember I got it the day it came out. It was back in 2009. It's been a long time since then. How long time since then, you ask? Well, I'll let you know. See this cutscene right here? I want you to pay attention to it very carefully. You see this? You see Jill in the background? You like her? I like seeing Jill. Well, guess what? This is the last time we see Jill in the current timeline at its most recent point. In terms of the last time we recently seen her. As I said, 2009. Guys, I was still in high school when this happened. I never in my wildest dreams saw, oh, that'd be the last time we see Jill. The only other update we've gotten is an email from Resident Evil Revelations 2. So, let me put this in perspective. You had a character that mainlined 2 games, and then magically just disappears from the current thing from 2009 all the way to the current time. Now, I know you might be thinking, well, wait a minute. Well, he had the game you're seeing right now, Revelations 1, right? Yeah, the problem with this game, while it came out after Resident Evil 5, it takes place before. That seems to be a thing I've noticed in a lot of these Resident Evil games, especially with Jill and Claire, is they keep trying to give them more stories taking place before what's currently happening in the franchise. And granted, I wouldn't mind this if we had, I don't know, an update. I mean, for goodness sakes, I don't even know if Jill's still blonde, for God's sakes. That's how little we know. Capcom didn't even let you have any inclination what happened with the character, whether they, retired or they just who knows what they're doing? We have no idea. They have completely gone mum on it and say absolutely nothing. And for those thinking, well, what about the remakes? I'm going to save them for the end part of this video, and I'll elaborate more on that why. But for the case of this point, it's unbelievable how a character as iconic as Jill could be gone from 2009 and since then. I mean, how do you fall off the mountain that quick? Like, it also gives me a theory that I've always believed in, and I'm going to elaborate that in the end about what Capcom really wanted to do with Jill in Resident Evil 5 and why I think what they originally wanted to do was probably scrapped. However, that's just an opinionated piece. But this is Jill. Let's flip the coin on the other side and let's go to the other character we have because we also have Claire. And Claire, oh my goodness, she may have even gone over a worse hiatus than even Jill is, and that's saying something. Last time we left off with Claire, we were in Code Veronica, and as I said, while I may not have the greatest love of Code Veronica, it still is a solid, good game, and people were really eager to see what Claire was going to do in the limelight afterwards. But it just seems like as soon as she found her brother, it's like as soon as she did that, everything that you could ever want to do with her went down the drain because apparently Capcom doesn't think there's anything interesting with the character. And let me just tell you this right now. I've tried to stick this strictly to the games, but it just seems like Capcom either A, doesn't want to show Claire at all, or B, when they do, just completely disrespect her in every way. You know how in the beginning of this game she charges an entire base of Umbrella people? She goes from that Claire to apparently can't even beat up two normal goons in like that Infinite Darkness Netflix series. It just shows Claire just being absolutely pathetic. But in terms of the games, this game came out early 2000s, like 2000 or 2001, one of those years. It took all the way into 2016 before her next actual mainline adventure in Revelations 2 would come out. That's 15 years! Imagine how much changes in 15 years, guys. Like, seriously, just imagine that. I can't even fathom that. Claire, just like Jill, mainlining 2 games and then disappearing for basically 15 years. I mean, hell, they even gave Barry a bone to hear. Barry was gone for just about as long time, too, for God's sakes. His last appearance was in Remake in terms of an actual, mainline game. But it's just like, damn, 2 iconic characters just gone for that long. And I'm just thinking, why? Fans love these characters. Why would you put them on the back burner? However, meanwhile, let's look at the other side again. Chris and Leon, oh my god, I'll start with Leon first. Leon hasn't had as much in terms of the games compared to Chris, but he was a main character in Resident Evil 6. They've been using him more for all those CGI movies, so he's at least included in stuff as well as the show. But my point still remains, he has a lot more presence in those games. I said he's main character in 6. Chris, on the other hand, has literally been in the last 4 mainline Resident Evil games from 5, 6, 7, and 8. Do I even have to explain? He was a main character in 5, a main character in 6. He had an appearance in an NDLC in 7, as well as he was in Village as an integral part of the story. My point remains, do you not see how different it is between him, Leon, and then Jill and Claire? It's absolutely ridiculous. And once again, it's not the fact that I'm necessarily clamoring for Chris and Leon to get out of the games. I think they're put in everything. I don't have a problem with their presence. The only thing I just want people to be aware of, it's amazing how different, the amount of exposure Jill and Claire get compared to the amount of exposure Leon and Chris get. It's like as if they don't ever want to use Jill and they don't ever want to use Claire, but Chris and Leon, they got to get shoved in everything, no matter what it is. Did Chris really need to be in all those things? Did he? I mean, he could have appeared, but would it be better if you had other people? As I said, we don't know what Jill's been doing the last 13 years, and Claire had a 15-year hiatus. It just seems like anytime you have Claire do anything, it's like they conveniently use the excuse, well, she's not really fighting or whatnot. Apparently Capcom doesn't think Claire can fight at all or do a damn thing nowadays, but she's just a complete pushover. It's not like she survived Raccoon City or the whole Code Veronica incident or any of that. She's just some random civilian, but I digress. So now that we've gotten through all these games and talked about it a little bit, let's try to tie this all together and let's bring up what I've been putting out for a little bit is the remakes. Now the remakes I've postponed until now because I know some people might think, well, hold on a second. Jill and Claire have been in the remakes, Resident Evil 2 and 3, and they were main characters in it. Like, they have to count, right? I don't think they should count. Because once again, the remakes are just remaking adventures we've already experienced. The only way I would count the remakes as being something that you could say, oh, well, they still care, is if Capcom were to come out and announce that, you know what, we have a completely different universe. We're doing a remake universe where we're going to remake the storyline and change some things. I've already made a video talking about what I think they should do if they do possibly remake Resident Evil 5. But once again, ironically enough, as I spoke before, Code Veronica is a game that seems like it just gets forgotten by Capcom. That's a game that definitely deserves a remake, and I think they could really make that really good. But it just seemingly gets ignored by Capcom. Maybe one day they'll go back to doing it. Maybe not. Maybe they have it announced soon, but, well, we'll wait and see. The point I'm trying to get here is that while I'm happy to see these remakes, I did enjoy 2 and 3, and I can't wait for 4, it's not like these are brand new adventures. People want to see what Claire and Jill have been doing as of recently in the current timeline at its recent point. It's not fair to them that we can see Chris 24/7. I know it's been a while since we've seen Leon, but you know they're going to put him in there eventually. They can't ever risk not upsetting their golden boys, but why does it seem like the guys are just constantly always in these games? They always on the front line fighting. Well, the gals either A, retired, they're just random civilians, they can't do anything, or they just are gone and disappeared. It just doesn't make any sense. And I just want to elaborate. Claire and Jill were top tier characters. They were not just some side characters that just never got their day in the sun. They were main characters in Resident Evil games. 2 of them each. And then they just magically, get a whole, multiple, over decade for both of them, years where they just vanish without a trace. And we're just stuck to think about why. And we still don't have answers of why. As I love the fact that they did get Revelations 1 and 2. But it's like, why are they not in the numbered titles anymore? Why weren't they in Resident Evil 6? I think a lot of people always have that argument. Why were they not in Resident Evil 6? Would it be so hard to have a cameo or something in 7 and 8? Like, why are they gone? And are they ever going to be brought back? Which leads me to my next topic right now. I think I've explained why I feel that Jill and Claire get no respect or love, or maybe they're possibly hated at Capcom or the forces that be to make Resident Evil. But here's the biggest question I want to ask now. The why. Now, I don't think anyone really knows. I've heard theories, and I've heard the theories of, oh, well, Japanese developers don't like older women. Because they don't, I guess, look good when they age. But it's like, dude, it's a video game. You can have an older person look good. It doesn't have to be realistic. That's not a good enough reason. I mean, hell, I believe in Resident Evil 6, Ada was in her 40s, and she was also going to be in Resident Evil Village, so that content got scrapped, and that takes place well after 6. So that's not a valid excuse at all. Another thing that I've thought of
And this goes with what I think that Capcom just doesn't know what they want to do with them, even though they've had over a decade to think of this stuff. And is the fact that I really think Capcom or whoever at Resident Evil wanted to kill Jill in Resident Evil 5. And I think it just either got scrapped. Maybe it was Capcom themselves that said, no, you can't kill the legacy character. But because think about it. Ever since that point, she has no update on what she's been doing. They have nothing. They have no idea or no plan of what. So the character has not been seen since Resident Evil 5 in the current timeline. That's the latest we've seen a character. As I said, we don't know if the character still has the effects of what happened to him in Resident Evil 5. Going through them, we know they were in the rehab based on that email. And yeah, an email of all things is that's what the iconic character. That's the least we can get, an email about them. Wow, thanks. Can you imagine did that to Chris and Leon? Yeah, you can't. But it just goes to my theory. I think they really wanted to kill her, and they just, I guess, pulled out because they have no idea or plan what they want to do with the character. And with Claire, it just seems like, as I said before, they always want to make her. They always have her appear as if she's somebody who's just like a civilian who has no experience doing any of this bioterrorism. Whenever they show her nowadays, as I said, that Infinite Darkness crap, and which is insulting. And it's like, well, they weren't trained. It's like, dude, they're an iconic character. They're a survivor. They've seen this shit. They are one of the most prepared people to dealing with this stuff. Don't give me that BS. I don't know why they get so hard on for Chris and Leon. I love Leon. I'm not a crazy Chris fan. They are iconic characters, and I'm happy to see them in the franchise. But why they always have to have them in everything, and then Jill and Claire in a sideline, or I'm sorry, not even a sideline, not on any line. They're just vanished, ghosted, whatever you want to call it. It just makes no sense. And I'm going to say this right now. Capcom, it's not enough that you want to remake these games. As I said, if you want to do a remake universe, fine. But at the end of the day, I think I speak for a lot of fans. We want to see Jill and Claire in the current timeline. We want to see them in the next mainline Resident Evil game. I have no problem with you creating new characters in Resident Evil 7 and Village and having no Ethan Winter storyline. That was fine. I have no problem with that. You had your two games where you could play around with that. Fans want to see their favorite characters and not just see them. They want to be able to play them again, and not just in small segments. And I've said this before, and I'll say this again. I would love the idea of them having Jill and Claire be the main characters, because it's just like that iconic moment from Resident Evil 6 where we had Chris and Leon meet each other. Why can't we finally see Jill and Claire? Yes, we know they've probably met each other off screen, but that's the key part, off screen. We want to see them on screen. And I would love to see them work together. You can have the campaigns where they're separate, and you can have the moments where they work together and interact, but that would just be cool as hell. And it would also be, I guess, some type of apology to all the fans of both Jill and Claire who've had to deal with being a disappearing act. Remember, they were the foundation of the franchise. If they didn't hold down the fort in the PS1 era, hell, we may have not gotten the Resident Evil we have today, or be as popular as today. So never forget your roots. Always respect your roots and respect the characters that laid the work and whatnot. But that is going to be it. As I said, very opinionated. I feel very strong about that, but don't let that scare you. I'm going to hear whatever you guys have to say. All I ask is that you explain yourselves, because I can't help or comment or reply or see where you're coming from if you don't at least explain. And also keep it civil, but I don't think there's anything to be uncivil about. At the end of the day, we are all Resident Evil fans, and we want games to be good. We want to see our favorite characters. But I'm in to see what you guys have to say. Do you agree with my opinion? Do you not agree with my opinion? Or maybe you're kind of in the middle, or maybe you weren't really aware of this, but let me know down in the comment section, and hopefully, my hope is that maybe one day we could see our favorite leading ladies of the Resident Evil franchise return. Not just return, but return in prominent fashion. Main charactering major Resident Evil games. Not just remakes, but main new games that we could see and see what they've been up to. Because, like, seriously, what have you been doing this whole time? Just sitting at home? I don't know, but that is going to be it. If you did enjoy this video, hopefully I can see you guys back on the next one. Thank you for watching. I hope you guys enjoy the New Year's Eve as I'm recording this, and hopefully we can have a better 2023, not just for ourselves, but also for the Resident Evil community, as we're always interested to hear whatever new stuff is going over there at the Resident Evil franchise. But hopefully we can get something good, better, sooner than later. But thank you for watching. Hope you enjoy the rest of your evening, and I hope to hear from you all later. Peace.